Would you like to accelerate your career and reach your full potential in just minutes a day? Welcome to the LEADx Show with New York Times best-selling author and Inc. 500 entrepreneur, Kevin Kruse.
How can you discover what you're truly passionate about? Hello, everyone. Kevin Kruse here, and in just a minute, we're going to talk about how to land your dream job. But first, let me speak plainly. If you want to get ahead in life, if you want to be viewed as a high potential at work, they call them hypos in the HR department, you need to get a little bit better every single day. So I encourage you to go to leadx.org, that's O-R-G, and sign up for the LEADx newsletter. We will deliver an actionable tip from some smart career experts, some of the top leadership gurus, every day into your email inbox, leadx.org. Our guest today is the founder and CEO of The Revolutionary Club, a destination for smart women who are unwilling to settle for anything less than career happiness. She's a certified professional coach and recovering consultant with a background working for Fortune 500 companies. Her website has been named a Forbes Top 100 for careers, and she herself has been named as one of the top 20 coaches to follow in 2016. Her book is Zero to Passion, Get Off the Couch and Into Action. Our guest is Christie Mims. Christie, welcome to the show.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here.
I'm excited to have you on, and we're going to talk about Zero to Passion in just a minute. But first, will you share with us a time when you actually failed, maybe early in your career, and what was the lesson you took away from it?
I love this question, and I found it so hard to narrow it down to one time.
We'll have you back on later for another failure.
Awesome. What came to mind with me was after I got my master's degree, I really wanted to work in Europe, and I had a master's in international conflict analysis, and I wanted to work at NATO. And I managed to tap dance my way into an unpaid internship at NATO for a few months while I tried to figure out what my next stage was going to be. And I was really excited about it. And I showed up and I hadn't talked to them about what the job really was going to be. Uh-oh. And I showed up and they had no idea what to do for me. Apparently, they had gotten a directive from upstairs to just hire more people and hire more interns, right? And so I ended up thinking I was going to sit in on meetings and take notes and sort of learn a lot. And instead, the first project they gave me was to archive all of the old files and shred them.
Oh, boy.
So it was me alone in a room with file cabinets for a month. It was the worst. And remember, I have a master's degree. I probably could do a little bit more than that. And I learned a couple things. The first thing is I learned to always ask for what you want. So I actually put up with that. And then I finally talked to my boss and I was like, look, I'm unpaid. I'm doing this to get experience so that I can get into this organization. And you really this is work anyone could do. I have a master's degree. You've got to have something better for me. And I also learned to cut my losses because he did give me another project and he tried, but it just wasn't anything I was interested in doing. And it was clear he had no idea what to do with me. And I was pretty unhappy. So that lesson made me think, if you're really unhappy at work and you're really undervalued and you're underutilized and you've asked for what you want, it's time to move on. And so I started to look for something better, and it didn't take long to find it once I was really hey, this is what I want to do and put myself out there. So I was actually really bad at shredding paper, but it taught me to really be clear about what I want, to ask for it. And then if it's not right, to be okay with moving on.
Wow, that's amazing. And it's such a shame because you started the story, I'm thinking, how cool is that? You come out with a master's in international conflict. You're going to, now somehow you finagled your way into NATO. You're going to be solving world conflicts and everything. And then you you give the surprise, you're shredding paper. So
yeah, that was the worst. I tell you, it was the worst.
My gosh. Okay, so Christie, your book is Zero to Passion, Get Off the Couch and Into Action. So why haven't people figured this out already? Because everybody's saying this to me, I'm not exactly sure what my dream job is. I don't really know what I'm passionate about. So why haven't we figured it out?
I think a lot about this question, and I think there's a variety of reasons, but one of the biggest is it's just biology. And when I say that, what I mean is career change is one of the hardest of life transitions because it impacts how you pay your rent, how you put food on the table. And so that's a basic survival instinct for all of us because we're human. And so given that, anytime you think about finding your passion or doing something different, immediately all of those like biological responses kick in. I can't do this. I won't make enough money. How will I figure it out? What if there's no passion out there for me? What if I fail? And it's just a natural response to changing a stable situation. And so for most of us, we just get railroaded by all of these fears and beliefs and what our parents told us and all this other stuff. And we just can't fight past it because it's our own biology fighting us. And I think that's why many people, they fail because they never are able to conquer that and see beyond it to what's possible, which is sort of sad, but also understandable to some way. I mean, granted, we're here to fight against that,
Right.
but I think that's a huge reason why.
It was probably 4 hours ago, a good friend of mine was complaining about her very well-paying job and saying she wishes she could just quit and do X or whatever. I'm like, well, why don't you? And she's like, because I don't want to live as a homeless person. I'm like, I don't think you're going to live as a homeless person when you do your dream job. But it shows that fear is there, making that switch.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so visceral and so powerful. Most of us just react. We never are able to think about what's really happening.
So how would we begin the process? So, we kind of overcome the fear, like we really do want to make a change. We want to figure this out, but we're not sure what our dream career, our dream job is. How do we begin?
I love this question too. So if I could, there's a lot to this, but if I could condense it down, the first thing is just to help get past the fear, tell yourself, I can figure this out. So anytime you feel afraid or doubtful or like you're going to be a homeless person, just tell yourself, I can figure this out. And that alone will help give you space to breathe and then think through it. And the second thing is to understand what passion really is. Passion it's at its core, it's really interest plus engagement. When you're really interested in something and you're really engaged in it, you're going to be happy. You're going to be fulfilled, right? It's going to be meaningful work. So for a lot of people, they have this like passion is like this crazy holy grail / unicorn, right?
Right.
That they're never going to find. And it's such a big idea that it feels almost intangible and unreachable. So if we think about passion as interest plus engagement in one of its easiest forms, then you can start to identify, okay, what am I interested in? What am I engaged in? And that starts to give you ideas. So concrete tip to do this, if you're like, okay, well, great, Christie, how do I identify what I'm interested in? Concrete tip. So open up your computer, open up your browser history, and just pull it down and see where you've been spending time on the internet. That alone might give you some ideas for what you're both interested in because you were searching for it and engaged in because you were reading about it, right? And that could be a good jumpstart for you.
We don't have to show this browser history to our friends, do we?
Not in any way, shape, or form.
Good. I wrote down, Christie, in big capital letters, passion is interest plus engagement, which I really hadn't thought about that before. And that does make it, it doesn't feel like it's insurmountable all of a sudden. And it also tells me that it can change. Like, it's okay if I was passionate about my current job or career, in the past, and I'm not now, because my interests are going to change and, my engagement levels are going to change. It's okay to have more than one dream career over life as well.
Yeah, and you will, because you as a person and the world, we all grow, evolve, and learn. And that's normal. It's the same way you wouldn't wear the same clothes you wore when you were 15, right?
Right.
Like you wouldn't let your 20-year-old dress your 50-year-old self. You wouldn't do this. Most of us, we're not going to be happy doing the same job at 55 as we were at 22. And that's normal. And so I think people can just take a deep breath and relax that, yeah, your jobs are going to change and what you're really interested in and engaged in is going to change. And that's okay.
Speaking of clothes, Christie, I just took my 16-year-old daughter. She wanted me to take her to an Urban Outfitters, which I thought, I've never really been in an Urban Outfitters. I'll look around for stuff. And within minutes, I'm like, wow, I am really old.
Oh, yeah. I totally get that.
Okay, so I've gone through my browser history and I've kind of got some ideas about a possible dream job or field that I might want to switch into, pivot into. But how do I explore them? How do I go from where I am now into this place that I really don't know a lot about? I probably don't know that many people that are working there. What do I do next?
I love this question. So here's the thing. Biology is, again, going to rear its ugly head at this stage of the process, because instead of just daydreaming or just dismissing your ideas, you've now found some things that really interest and excite you. And so your, stomach's going to be like, shut up, like,
Right.
just stop it. So, the thing that I recommend people do is get real information. So fact trumps fear. Always. Fact trumps fear. So what that means is, instead of just researching or thinking about it or being like, I could never do that, go out and talk to real people. So basically I'm saying do informational interviews and talk to at least 3 or 4 people in the industry or field or rough career that you're thinking about exploring or pivoting to. And the reason for that is because one person could sway your data. They could have a really bad experience or be really a little bit off, and that would maybe give you bad information. But if you talk to 3 or 4 people, you'll be able to see some trends and common information that'll really help you understand what that field is like, what people make in that field, what's the possibility for you, what kind of education or experience you might need, how to get it, what people value, et cetera, et cetera. So you can make smart, fact-based decisions about your next step.
And let me ask you to get even more specific or practical. So I'm trying to gather some facts and I want to interview some people. Now, if I don't already know some people working in that field, how do I get access to them? Is it sort of like cold approach on LinkedIn, or do I try to find a friend of a friend and get that first connection? Like, what's your advice on how I get access?
I love that. So a couple ways, and we talk about this over at the Revolutionary Club a lot because networking is such an important thing. But the first thing is to email your friends and family very specifically and say, hey, I'm interested in X field. I'm interested in travel blogging. Do you guys know anyone who either works in travel or in blogging or in travel blogging that I can chat with about what they do and what it's like for 20 minutes? So be really specific. Email your friends and family. You never know who your friends and family might know. Step 2 is to go to LinkedIn, in the search bar, type in travel blogging and, click on people and see all the people that come up, and then email them a connection request, say something flattering like, oh, I love the work that you're in. I'd love to connect with you. And then once they accept, you can email them a message and say, would you mind doing an informational interview with me? You're so smart. What you do is so interesting. I'd love to just chat with you for 20 minutes, anytime that's convenient for you. This day, just let me know. And the reason for that, like, people feel like a bother when they reach out, but we love to talk about ourselves and we love to feel smart. So
True.
If you're polite and if you're flattering and you're sincere in your interest and that comes across, most people are willing to chat for 20 minutes and pontificate about how awesome they are. Really, truly, right. We all love to do it because, again, the reason we love to do it is we feel like we're helping someone, we feel smart, we feel wise, and we like those feelings. So as long as you're polite and you're flattering and you show that you've done a little research on that person, you're going to get a response more often than not. And that's how you can gather some of that information.
And on this topic, in terms of networking, I've often thought that, whether it's right or not, I feel like the younger you are, it's actually the easier to get access in these interviews. Like it's probably not right, but if I get cold emailed or LinkedIn from some, 50-year-old guy who's saying, Kevin, I'm thinking about doing what you do. Can you give me 30 minutes of your time? I might not respond. I'm probably not going to respond to that. Or I'm certainly not going to give the 30 minutes of my time. If someone in their early 20s, and like my oldest daughter now is 19, so maybe there's some of that stuff going on. But like if someone in their early 20s, like, hey, follow your stuff online, do all that flattery stuff you mentioned. I'm thinking about how I can pursue a career in your field. Can I get 30 minutes of your time? I don't know if I'd give 30 minutes, but like I'm much more likely to say yes to the 20-something-year-old than the 50-year-old. And I just bring this up, Christie, because, and again, it's probably not right. There's a bias to the youth, but I encounter young people who say like, well, how am I going to get access to this CEO or this director level person or this entrepreneur? And I actually think the younger you are, the better your odds of getting that access.
Yeah, I agree with you to a point. I think the older you are, the more you need to prove that you've really done the research and be flattering.
Yeah, right.
But I've definitely been approached by people of all ages, and I find I give them time when they demonstrate they've shown, they've given me their time, they've done their research. Right. They've referenced something that I've written, they've clearly read it. And so if you give me your time first, then I'm more likely to say yes. And a tip here, ask for 20 minutes. To everyone listening, ask for 20 minutes, not 30. Everyone will give you 30 minutes always. Like they'll just, because they like talking about themselves for the most part. But 20 minutes is doable for almost anyone. It's really hard to say no to that.
Yeah, that's a really great tip. And it's only a 10-minute difference. And yet saying yes to 20 minutes does feel a lot easier than saying yes to 30. And then you'll get the 30 anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Because no one has an appointment at like 20 minutes after the hour, right?
Right,
So
exactly.
They'll be fine. They'll give you that time.
So, Christie, before we wrap up, I always like to challenge the LEADx listeners to get a little bit better every single day. So, challenge us with something. What could we go out and try right away?
So first of all, can I just commend you? This is the most interesting podcast question I think I've ever been asked.
Dang, giddy up.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. So I really want to commend you on that because I saw it and I've been giving it a lot of thought in the last 24 hours. And so here's what I want people to do. I think that we tend to make progress in batches, the same way you grow in growth spurts, right? So while it's good to make incremental progress every day and focus on that, I think we actually tend to make these huge leaps. So what I want to challenge people to do today that will ultimately help them get better every day is to sit down for half an hour, make time, put it on your calendar so you're really committed to it. So put a half an hour of time on your calendar, shut off your phone, shut off your computer, and ask yourself this question. How can I be 10 times better right now?
I'm writing this down myself. How can I be 10 times better right now?
Yeah. So instead of going incrementally, just in the question, go exponential. Because I find that the exponential questions open up your mind and you'll start to brainstorm ideas. So if you're in business, you might say, how can I 10x my business right now? Or, if you're in career, how can I be 10 times more productive? Or how can I be 10 times better? Or whatever you decide. But then pick your best idea and start to implement it. And what will happen is you'll actually will be 1% better every day, right? Just by implementing this idea, but it won't feel like, it'll come in such a big spurt. I like the way it opens up your mind, that expansive thinking. So I know it's a little bit of a different take on your question, but I found like that's what makes me better every day is having this like 10x big goal in my mind.
No, this is fantastic. And there's actually two things that I really liked about your answer. One is, I'm a productivity nut. And so I always tell people, if you really want to get it done, you schedule it. You don't list it. You put it in your calendar, not your to-do list. And that's exactly what you said. It's like, listen, time block 30 minutes on your calendar to do this exercise today and every day. And this 10X question is powerful. I've used it over and over again, in my businesses and life. And I think it's one of those things, again, where even if you don't actually get to the 10X, you will make huge gains. If I'm trying to figure out how to grow my business, my top line revenue by whatever it is, even double in 1 year, instead of trying to figure out how would I 10X the revenue in 1 year? And that's just going to release all kinds of ideas and possibilities that you won't take advantage of all of them. You probably won't 10X your business. You might, but you're much more likely to double it. I think that's great.
Yeah, thanks. I love that exercise and I love this question. So I hope people go off and are able to take something from it.
So, Christie, what's the best way for our listeners to find out more about your work, your training, your book?
Oh, great question. So therevolutionaryclub.com is where you can, is the Forbes website where you can find all sorts of passion help to help you find work that you love, figure out your passion and then make that transition. zerotopassion.com is where you can find my book, which actually is a book, but there's more options than that if you want some more help in terms of getting a workbook and some videos and all sorts of stuff. So that's on zerotopassion.com. And if you are someone who wants to be like me, be a career coach or a coach, check out coachpony.com. It's a community I created to help coaches start and grow their businesses.
That last one I'm going to have to ask, coachpony.com.
Yes.
All right. I love that. I love these URLs. TheRevolutionaryClub.com, zerotopassion.com, coachpony.com. All right, friends, you've just been mentored by the great Christie Mims. You can get all of the links we just talked about and notes from this show over at leadx.org. And listeners, do me one solid favor and just take a minute to subscribe to this show on iTunes, leave a short, honest review. And by the way, if you do that and send me an email, I'm at kevin@leadx.org, we're going to invite you into our private LEADx Ambassador program. You get to win a bunch of prizes, LEADx swag, access to our guests, and a whole lot more. So until next time, remember, you are a leader. Whether you have a title or not, leadership is influence. You are a leader. Lead with intent.